anybody who's been successful in wholesaling and made big checks and been consistent with it, it's life-changing. Wholesaling's changed a lot. That used to be the main focus. And again, I used to have a pretty solid team, sizable team in-house. I really like direct mail over the last 12 months or so. That's our main marketing strategy. I mean, we pump probably $20,000, $22,000 a month into that. You need to protect whatever spread you're making on there as much as possible. And to me, the best way to do that is to double close it. Anybody can have success in a sense. Like if you set a goal and you hit that goal, it's success. There's some people out there, some operators that have some really good offers and it's kind of packaged together where all you have to worry on is...
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the RDM podcast. Today we have Pete out of North Carolina. Pete, I'd love to dig a little bit deeper and just get into why you got into this niche originally.
Yeah, for the transactional funding?
Transactional funding and wholesaling in general as well.
Yeah, so I definitely started out with wholesaling first. I've been doing that for right at 9 years now, which is crazy to think it's gone by really, really fast, but a lot of ups and downs, highs and lows, and learning throughout that process. But I had always been interested in real estate investing, but I never really dug into it. And I always thought, oh, you either have to have a bunch of money or like a rich uncle or be a general contractor or whatever it may be, right? And I was intrigued by it. I saw opportunity there. I thought it was neat in just either TV shows or talking to people secondhand and that kind of thing. So I didn't know about wholesaling until 2016 is when I found out about it. So I'd been interested for years past about real estate investing. And then a friend of mine, a guy I went to high school with back in the day, he was actually posting lives about deals that he was locking up in these small towns like right outside of Charlotte. And he was locking them up and then turn around and assigning them over to other people. And he would just kind of walk through and explain the process of what he was doing. And I was like, okay, like this is different. Never heard of this before. It doesn't seem like it takes a lot of money, just a lot of effort and energy, which, you know, everybody has. So I was like, let me dig into this a little bit more. And I hit him up, DM'd him, and I was like, hey man, is this legit? Like, are you just putting this out there to be like ridiculous or get followers or get people to like buy a course or do whatever, right? I was just like very straightforward with him and like, what's going on here? And he was like, no, he's like, call me when you get a chance and let's talk about it. So I remember the first time I called him, he talked my ear off for like an hour and I'm like what it is and how you do it. And you get the property, you don't have to put $1 into it. Like, it's just like finding these off-market deals and then you're getting them under contract and then assigning them over to somebody that's going to do the flip and all the hard work and labor and take on the majority of the risk. So he's like, you're pretty much like a middleman, right? Like you're sourcing these properties for these flippers. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. And that's like a cool entry and stepping stone. So back then, there were a lot of courses. Wasn't as nearly as much information or coaches or gurus or any like what we have now, right? For better or for worse. There was, I think it was Sean Terry. It was like Flip to Freedom is one of the only people that had stuff on YouTube. So I just dove in, right? Like I took what my friend was telling me about and like his experience. And then I was like, okay, let me buy this course. Let me go through these videos. Let me figure this out. And I was working in a marketing company at the time with sales on the phone, doing something completely different. But one of the guys I worked with, we just used to hang out during our breaks and talk and stuff like that. And one day we're literally playing ping pong on our break. And he was like, what do you got going on over the next few days? And I was like, oh, I'm going to this meetup about wholesaling. And it was the guy who was posting on Facebook Lives. He had a monthly meetup. And the guy I worked with was like, cool, man, I've heard about that. I've been interested, but I'm not really sure about it. Can I go with you? So we went to the event. And then from there, like we heard, you know, people throwing around crazy numbers, talking about they're upset that they're only making 20K on this assignment, that sort of thing. So it just like became more and more real, right? Like these people are doing it. Either everybody in this room is in on some elaborate hoax or joke or whatever. And at the end of the meetup, they're going to say like, gotcha, or hey, it's actually legit. So That was my entry, man. It was just somebody posting on Facebook Lives, always being curious about it. And then the guy I worked with and I ended up being my business partner for like 7-8 years. And we just started by, again, watching those videos. We'd put out Bandit signs. We'd put like sticky notes on doors. We'd knock on doors that were pre-foreclosure and stuff like that. And we started getting calls and some traction on it. And it just kind of took off from there, where eventually we got to the point where we got enough deals and opportunity where we quit our 9 to 5 and built out a team, built out, slowly but surely over the years, started adding like acquisitions, transaction coordinator, started going to events. As I feel like wholesaling's been around before my time, but it really started growing within the time period since I started. So these guys out like in Phoenix and in Florida and different places would start throwing events, and we would just go and soak up as much as we could, like what list to pull, like how to market, you can cold call, you can mail, you can do all that stuff. So we just failed forward and learned as we went. But we started out early in the mornings throwing out those Bandit signs and taking calls on the Google Voice numbers. And it was pretty cool, like to go through that process and everything like that. And throughout that time, we got pretty big at one point. Probably the height of it was like 2019 through 2022, even going through COVID and everything like that. We were doing stuff in about 5 or 6 different markets virtually: Houston, Dallas, markets in Alabama, Florida, and in Charlotte. And we had a pretty good sized team. And during that time is when I found out about transactional funding and double closings, which is what I focus a lot on now, because we were selling to like iBuyers and hedge funds and the big companies. And they would straight up tell you like, hey, if you're making over 15K, like you have to double close this. Right. And we had always done assignments, so I didn't really know what a double closing was. So we learned through trial on that, and getting those funds where you have to, instead of signing it over, you have to buy it and turn around and sell it to your buyer on the same day. It was a process. It was a clanky, rough process. There wasn't really anybody doing it, especially in nationwide in the different markets. Like we'd have to find a person in each different market, and they weren't really reliable. And sometimes they charge us 2 points, sometimes 3 points, sometimes they wanted a piece of the deal. So after a while, it's kind of like a light bulb moment where I was like, hey, like if I'm having this issue, if my team's having this issue, other people nationwide are probably feeling this too, right? And that's when everybody was selling to, Open Door, Amherst, whoever. There's dozens of hedge funds out there at the time, Tricon and whoever else. And a lot of them were pushing for the double close, or their sales reps or acquisition reps would tell you, again, if you're making over a certain amount, we're going to come back and ask for a reduction on it, because my boss and my boss's boss don't like to see that somebody made $30,000-$40,000 on a deal. That means we could have got it cheaper, right? So with that, I was like, man, why don't I create something that's super simple, super streamlined, and it's the same thing every single time, right? Whenever another wholesaler comes to me for transactional funding, they know the process. They know that we're going to handle it. We're not going to disappear on them. And we bring our experience to the deal of, we've worked with title companies, we've worked with closing companies, we've closed hundreds of deals. Like we know where you're coming from as a fellow, not just investor, but wholesaler. So put that together, finally got it off the ground probably 2 years ago, and then just started it here locally in Charlotte. And it was well received. We tweaked some things and figured some stuff out. And then we took it nationwide about 18 months ago, and we've done over 300 of them since then. And it's just like rapidly growing and growing.
Want to get motivated sellers that nobody knows about? Introducing 10x TV. If you want to create credibility in your market, find deals that nobody else knows about, and crush your competition, you need to check into TV commercials. It is the new buzz in the real estate investing industry since we introduced it several years ago. I've been using TV commercials myself for the last 12 years, and it's absolutely crushed it. So if you want to learn how to get on TV and to do something that little to no people are doing right now, go to claimmymarket.com. Again, that's claimmymarket.com. We usually only work with 2 investors per market, so if you're interested, reach out to us and book a call to see if you can claim your market before anybody else does. Now back to the show.
Before real estate, before investing, before you saw that Facebook post, what was your life like before compared to it is now?
Oh man, night and day. We could talk about the financial side of it. Like anybody who's been successful in wholesaling and made big checks and been consistent with it, it's life-changing, right? Like financially, it just puts you in a whole other place of where you were, probably potentially where you could be. I talk to Brent Daniels about this from time to time. He's like, it's the greatest thing ever. He's like, how do you give up or walk away from something like that, right? Where you have potential to make 40, 50, 60, $100,000 on a deal. Now it's a lot of work, right? And there's highs and lows and whatnot to it, but it changes your outlook financially of what's possible. And then what you can do. Like I've been able to build a house in a neighborhood that I love here in Charlotte that I could never do with my old job. My old job was not bad. I mean, it potential for six figures if you worked really hard. But it's not like what you can scale and create out of wholesaling. Right. So it's changed financially what I can do and enjoy trips, vacations, and help out family members and do things like that, which is amazing. And be able to give back and support different groups and charities that like close to your heart. And then on the mental side of it too, like the shift of what's my potential? What can I do? What can I, if you look back on it and you're like, man, I built a business out of nothing and it worked, right? Then you're just like, what else is possible? When you have that shift and that mindset, you create something out of nothing. I think it does it for a lot of people in this space, but I can say 100% for myself, it's changed my mind shift. And you're around a lot of other people too that have gone through that experience and had that shift, and they're encouraging. And I've never had a group like this where they recommend like courses and books and things that like positive stuff that's just going to keep you going along that path. So those are the big shifts of what it's changed for me in my life. Like it's given me a lot of confidence of what someone is able to accomplish. If they really put their mind to it and see it through. I think when I first approached it, my thought was, give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? Right. And then once it started working out, I think not putting so much stress on it and just putting the work in, going out early before work and putting up those Bandit signs and taking calls on your break and everything like that. I think if you approach it that way, it works really, really well, where you're like, I'm just going to do this, give it my all, see what happens. Right. And you kind of take that pressure off a little bit. Like I did it while I still had a job. I know some people kind of quit, burn bridges or burn the boats and just go all in on it. And I think that's great too. But I think there's a lot of stress and everything that's involved in that. If you're paying bills, I was still taking care of my day-to-day needs and everything like that. But one thing I had was extra time, right? Like everybody can wake up a little bit earlier or stay up a little bit later. And we were funding it out of our own pockets, which is a good thing too. But I think before I was very limited. I was kind of capped. I was like, hey, I'm not going to be an attorney. I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not, don't have this crazy high level of education or all these connections or anything like that. But so many doors have opened since this has started. And it was with being intrigued and interested and just kind of going for it and seeing what's out there and sticking with it too. Because in the beginning, there were definitely, it took a good 4 or 5 months before we got a deal. And there were a few deals that fell through where it was like going to be a $20,000, $25,000 paycheck. And those didn't work out. And I think if we would have quit then, we could have just told ourselves, oh, this is a scam, or this isn't real, or, these people don't take it serious, or somebody's doing it better than me. But we just stuck with it and we kept going and going. And then once that proof of concept hits, you're like, okay, how can I go get another one? How can I make this happen more frequently, more consistently, that sort of thing. So it's life-changing in those two aspects for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And looking back from then till now, I mean, what does your business look like today from the lending side and the wholesaling side? What's the percentage of time that you're spending and percentage of income that's coming in from each side?
Yeah. So wholesaling's changed a lot. That used to be the main focus. And again, I used to have a pretty solid team, sizable team in-house. And we had a nice office, and there is multiple acquisition managers, dispo manager, transaction coordinator, a lot of VAs, and a lot of moving parts. And at our peak, at our height there, we used to do between probably 25, 30 deals a month. And then about 2 years ago, just scaled that all way down. That my business partner and I that I started with were just like, hey, we've had a good run. He wanted to get into and try some different things out. I wanted to continue down this path and really focus on transactional funding. So it was just like, hey, let's pause, and then let's realize that we want to go separate ways now. So we shut all that down. And then now for wholesaling, I still do it, but I just do it locally here in Charlotte. And I do way less, like probably a quarter of what I did before. On an average month, 4 to 5 deals. On a good month, you're getting closer maybe to like 7, 8. And I have a much smaller team. And then on the transactional funding side, that's the main focus. Well, let me go back. So with the wholesaling here in Charlotte, we set a floor on deals that we're going to do as far as what we think we're going to make or push to make. And that's $25K. So any deal that we do, 9 times out of 10, we're making $25,000 or more. And that's changed my business and outlook a lot too, because we can do less deals and make more money. So we're hitting 6 figures pretty regularly every month. With that, when I had the bigger team before, is like anything over 5K, like we're going to do it, right? And we're going to close on it. It was just volume. Then you realize after a while, those smaller deals are usually the ones that are the toughest and take the most time and energy and all that kind of stuff, right? So a little while ago, I had a mindset shift with that. So we're doing less volume, but with a smaller team, and our average is much higher. So we're still hitting, 6 figures pretty regularly, which is great. And then it allows me to focus on the transactional funding. With that, since we've been doing it nationwide, we do about 20, 25 deals a month. And it's just growing and growing as we get it out there, go to events, build affiliate and referral partners, work with different title companies, closing attorneys. We're just, everything's been word of mouth up until the last probably 6 months or so. And now it's starting to really catch on with those affiliate programs and everything. So that eats up and takes a lot of time and energy. And with that, we're not quite at 6 figures a month with that yet. But that is one of our goals, is to take it from that 20 to 25 per month and double that in the next few months of how many transactions that we're actually funding for the double closings nationwide.
That's awesome. I've always believed in bigger numbers, less deals. It will always equate to less stress and easier life, and typically more profitability for sure. So
Yeah.
definitely would agree with you on that one. Excuse me. We will now have just a quick word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by 10X TV, the secret weapon behind some of the most successful real estate investors in the country. Here's the deal. Most investors are stuck cold calling or spending hours chasing down low quality leads, but the smart ones, they're using TV commercials to flip the script. With TV, motivated sellers are calling them already warmed up, already trusting them because they've seen them on TV. It's high credibility, high leverage, but much less hustle. This isn't a theory. The founder of 10X TV has been a real estate investor for the last 24 years, and TV has been his number one lead source for the last 13. Want to find out if your market's available? Go to 10xtv.co. That's C-O, no M, for a free marketing audit and see how TV can become your unfair advantage. Again, that's 10xtv.co. Awesome. As far as key strategies that you are using, are there any specific strategies that you're using on the wholesale side or on the leverage side?
So with wholesaling, I really like direct mail. Over the last 12 months or so, that's our main marketing strategy. I mean, we pump probably $20,000, $22,000 a month into that. And the reason behind that is quality over quantity. You're sending out tens of thousands of mailers, but you're only getting maybe 100 phone calls off that a month. But out of that, what we see is usually it's one of 3 things. People are like, don't ever mail me again. Take me off your list. Hey, I'm kind of interested, but I want market value or higher, or someone's super motivated, right? So with my team being small and not I have a lead manager and some of that acquisition assistant, that sort of thing. We don't have a big team to just filter a bunch of stuff through SMS and cold calling. So with the mailers we have with that small team can definitely handle the scale of where we're at with those calls. And again, the warm ones are really warm and the hot ones are really hot, right? Like I've had some crazy deals over this year where people are just like, hey, it's almost seems too good to be true. They're like, we just moved my uncle out of this house. We all live on the West Coast. We never want to come out there. Let me send you the keys in the mail. Go look at it. Give me your best offer. And we just want to be done with it. Those are the type of leads that we get through direct mail, as opposed in the past, I've tried anything and everything probably. And we always got deals out of our different channels, but some of them were just like a grind, or everybody's calling them or everybody's texting them. And I feel like when I started, there were a lot of people doing direct mail, but that's kind of fallen off. I think it's starting to pick back up again because it's not so saturated. So we might have to pivot if everybody else starts doing it again. But right now, and in the last 12 to 18 months, we just go hard on the mail. And I really, really like it. Like it just leads to really good opportunities. And again, we're going after people that are really in a situation where they need our help and not just like tire kickers and things like that. I just feel like it's much easier to filter through it with direct mail.
With the leads that you're getting right now, just for people that are listening that have a wholesale business that are doing direct mail, when you're getting 100 leads, let's say, how many, one out of what ratio are you looking at to the certain amount of deals? Let's say you get 100 leads. How many deals are you typically looking for out of that?
Probably that 4 to 5 deals per month range. So if you're sending out a lot of thousands, I think with our spend, we're sending out close to 30,000 mailers a month. If you get 100 like actual leads calling back or raising their hand, I say raising their hand, but they're calling on the mail piece, right? And then out of that, you're going on maybe 10 to 15 appointments. And then out of that, you're locking up 7-8 deals a month. And then out of that, it's 4 to 5 that are closing. And again, that's a pretty good average. Some months hit better, right? Some months it's just like every appointment we go on, we get it under contract and 90% of them close. Again, with the mail piece, I feel like the leads are stickier. And if they call you on a piece of mail and they really want to sell the house and you'll run out there and meet them, like it's pretty good odds that something's going to work out, rather than a text where they're like, I don't know, you tell me, or come out and meet me at the house. And you're like, no, let's talk on the phone first so I don't get out there and I get like ambushed or something, right? So those are I don't have them right in front of me, but those are pretty rough numbers to go by and what we see month to month.
Sweet. What mistakes do you often see investors make that you think could be easily avoided?
Oh man, I mean, you're going to get me talking about double closings now for sure. Is when you're uneasy with the seller, right? Or I say more often it's the end buyer. If you think that end buyer is going to start counting your pockets and they're going to look on that HUD, or they want you to send your original contract over and they're like, oh my God, this guy's making more than I'm going to make when I put 3 months worth of time and a bunch of money into this property and flip it, don't assign it. Like protect your profit. That's my biggest thing, is like, as a wholesaler, like, you deserve it. Your team deserves it. You put a lot of time and money and energy and effort to it. You need to protect whatever spread you're making on there as much as possible. And to me, the best way to do that is to double close it, because then you have two separate processes for everything. You have a separate contract with your seller and your buyer. And then you have a separate, at the day of closing, you're actually the buyer. So you don't have to feel like icky about telling that seller you're the buyer, because you're going to buy it. You're going to use my funds. I'm going to fund it for you. But I'm like your angel investor or your equity partner, capital partner, whatever you want to call it. But you can buy it from that seller, and then you can turn around and be the seller to that buyer. So if you have a contract for 200 and you're selling it to your end buyer for 250, you're going to buy it for 200. And then your separate contract with your end buyer is going to say 250, right? They're not going to see, Mr. Buyer is not going to see that, hey, Pete's making 50K on this. Let me go back and tell him that there's mold in the crawl space, or let me go back and tell him there's foundation issues. Because at that point, you're at the mercy of like, do I go find another buyer? Do I just go through with this? Whatever. So I would tell anybody and everybody out there, and I've learned from my experience, I've had people walk away at closings because they look down on the HUD and like do, and then they saw line item 1,700, whatever it is, looked over and they saw my company, and then they saw $40,000, $60,000. Like I've literally had people call with the attorney on the line. They're like, we need to do something about this or we're walking away. Right. So as much as you prep that seller and tell them like, I'm going to assign it over to somebody, I'm going to bring a partner in, or I may not be the end buyer, but you're going to get what we agreed on. It hits a little different when they're at closing and they're like, wait a second, what's going on? That seller is one thing. And then again, your end buyer is usually a little more savvy, and they're going to dig in and they're going to look, they'll tell you all day long, like, oh, I don't care. Make 100K. It doesn't matter. But people will start counting your money. And that can be an issue. So protect that by double closing. If you're in a market now where you can't really do assignments or they're in a gray area, you should definitely double close. And then if you're making a decent spread, and that's different for everybody, right? Like it could be $20,000 for some people. It could be all double close, $40,000 or higher for other people. But if you're making a good spread and you're a little iffy about it, or you just don't even want to worry about it, I'm a big advocate. That's why I've built a company around double closing that. And now that there's a company that's run by a wholesaler for other wholesalers, and I'll fund that full amount. Like whatever you need A to B, I will fund that for you. So it's not like, hey, you got to bring 20% or 10% down, like a traditional like private money loan. It's like whatever you need to close the first one, we'll fund it. We'll send it to title. They'll close it, turn around, close the second one, disperse profits, and then you're a happy camper because nothing blew up on you on the day of closing. So that is my big pet peeve, word of wisdom, experience note for anybody out there is to look into double closing, and we can do them nationwide.
Awesome. What's something, a lot of people call themselves real estate investors, and then there's, a top end real estate investor. What do you think separates the top operators from the people that just call themselves investors?
I think a big part of it is consistency, and then putting money back into their business, and then educating themselves. Like if you're talking about like the owner operator of the business, now there's no excuse not to be around like-minded other investors or people at a higher level. There's so many different groups and everything that you can be a part of. And if you're willing to pay and travel and go do it, it's out there, right? Like the amount of money that I've put into growing my business and mindset and everything with it is really substantial, but it's been more than 10x return since doing it. So I think the ones that stand out over somebody that's just kind of like does a couple of deals a year, does it part-time and still, has a full-time job or a part-time job or whatever, and hasn't gotten to that point where it's their main source of income and they've, just focus on that. I think after a while, it's them being open and realizing they don't know everything and going to other people and getting that knowledge, pouring it back into their company, and just be willing to grow and step outside of your comfort zone. And the best way to do that is to get a mentor, to join a really good group, because the age old saying is learn from your mistakes. But I learned from my own mistakes, but learning from others' mistakes where they're like, dude, I went through hell because I did this wrong, or I had my contract wrong or whatever. That's going to save you so much headache and issues down the road. And the only way you do that is you have to get in the room with those other people where you eventually want to be. So you got to be willing to do that if you want to grow and be a true full-time investor.
Yeah, I love it. When it comes to the word success, everyone's got their own definition for it. How do you define success, and what are you striving for in that sense currently?
That's a good question. And I've switched this up a little bit recently, and it's through the help of a mentor of mine, where success now to me is like anybody can have success in a sense. Like if you set a goal and you hit that goal, it's success. Like if you want to get in shape or start working out and you get a program and you get weights and start lifting or start going to the gym, and 6 weeks later you feel better, look better. Like that's technically like a success, right? So it's just set a goal and hitting it. It could be small, could be incremental, it could be over a specific period of time, or it could be a lifetime. It's just as you're hitting those as you go. Wealth is what I'm looking for more, in the sense of not just a bunch of money or anything like that, but to have more options and opportunities. Usually that is provided partially by having the finances to do it and the time to do it, right? Because a lot of people, and I still am working on getting out of this myself, is you can work, make a bunch of money, have some success, but you're not wealthy because you're burned out, or you don't have any time for friends, family, or anything else like that, right? So going beyond just hitting goals financially and like personally and things like that and having success is now like, I wanted to be able to have the time to be able to enjoy things, whether it's travel, whether it's spending time with family, whether it's picking up my nephew from school, right? And like surprising him. I got to do that like not too long ago. I rolled up in my car and he was standing there and he was like shocked that Uncle Pete was coming to scoop him up. Like, to be able to have that time and availability in the wealth that you have to work for to get there is really what I'm focusing on. So opportunities, and then having either the time or the finances or capacity to be able to enjoy or use those opportunities is really what I focus on now.
When it comes to starting in the wholesale business, if you were to restart from scratch today, you keep your knowledge, but the business, everything that you have going on disappears, what would you focus on first?
What's really cool now is what wasn't there before is there's some people out there, some operators that have some really good offers, and it's kind of packaged together where all you have to worry on is taking the calls, talking and getting the deals under contract. And you don't have to like pull a bunch of lists. You don't have to like sit on the phone and call, just like dial. One that I really, really like, if I was starting over from scratch, and even with a really small budget, right, is Nicholas Nick has a really cool offering with Lead Mining Pros. He's a great guy to begin with, and like genuine and cares and has a really good background too. But I wish I had something like that when I started. When we started, again, we were just like figuring stuff out. We were literally stapling "We Buy Houses" signs on telephone poles at like 5:30 in the morning, which worked, which was cool. But I would take that exact same budget that we used and work with a company like that and start getting leads and just have it come to your phone. Obviously, you don't have to have a crazy CRM. You don't have to have all this different stuff. You literally have like a Ring Central number or a Google Voice number. So it's not your direct number, but you can go to them with a budget, let them know what you're looking for, what market you're in, get his input directly. He'll work with you directly and be like, hey man, I want to start getting some deals and some lead flow where I can build on that. And I would go to a company like Lead Mining Pro and get that set up, and then just start talking to people. That's the biggest thing. Again, going back to Brent Daniels, that's his whole thing is TTP. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of people don't succeed because they're afraid to hear no. Like that's all you hear the majority of the time. 90% of the time is no, or you're crazy, or much worse than that. And all you got to do is hang up the phone, right? But you have to talk to people. You have to have conversations. You got to go through some awkwardness because those people need your help. And if you don't talk to that seller, then somebody else is going to, right? So I'd take your budget, small, medium, large, whatever it is, go to someone like Lead Mining, work with them, start getting calls coming in, and then just talk to people and try to be a problem solver. And awesome. If you stick with it long enough, like, you're going to get a deal. The only way you don't get a deal is if you stop. But if you stick with it long enough, it's going to happen.
Awesome. Where can people learn more about you? Where can people find you? If someone wants to start double closing, where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, they can. I'm on socials. Just put in my name, Peter Russell. I think it's Peter Russell, like .official is the handle or whatever. But I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. My team got me on TikTok recently, even though I try to avoid that like crazy. But that's had a lot of good connections and results and everything from it. So on there as well too. And then our website is velocityadvantagecapital.com. if you have a deal, again, so it could be a $20,000 deal, $300,000 deal, $2 million deals. There's some guys that double close like big stuff, and you have a contract with a seller and a buyer. You can just go to our website, submit a deal, and you'll get introduced to the team, and we'll fund it for you. And people just DM me if you have any questions for me, anything like that. Just pull me up online, DM me, and it's going to be me getting back to you. I'm not at that level where I've got a bunch of people responding to stuff. People call in and hit me up all the time, and they're like, "Oh, it's actually you," and I'm like, "Yeah." Like I take it that serious, where I want to be that point of contact to talk to you, answer any questions, whatnot. If I'm super busy, I do have some other people on the team that will help out because we don't like stuff to fall through the cracks. But just hit me up on socials or anything like that and reach out to me, and we'll have a conversation. I'll give you my number, and I talk to people on the phone for 15, 20 minutes a time, all the time too, to try to help them out.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. Pete, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.